There's a specific kind of fear that's buried deep inside all of us. The fear of being watched by something you can't quite see. You know the feeling. It's that prickle on the back of your neck when you're walking to your car late at night. It's that sudden silence in the woods when a branch snaps just outside the light of your campfire. For most of us, it's just our imagination running wild. A trick of the mind. But for some people, that feeling becomes terrifyingly real. Tonight, we're delving into 8 stories from people who stared out into the darkness only to have something stare right back. These are the kinds of encounters that defy explanation, the stories that keep folklorists awake at night. These are the sightings that will chill your bones. Our first story takes us deep into the sprawling ancient forests of the Pacific Northwest, a place where civilization feels a million miles away, and you are truly on your own. This is the heart of Sasquatch country. 2 friends, both experienced campers, thought they were ready for anything the wilderness had to offer. They were wrong. Their first night was completely peaceful, but on the second night, the forest itself seemed to change. It began with a sound, the heavy, deliberate thud of footsteps circling their tent. It wasn't the 4-legged rhythm of a bear or a deer. It was 2 feet, bipedal. Suddenly, a thick branch nearby shattered with a crack like a rifle shot. Then came a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate right up through the ground, a sound of pure, raw aggression. Terrified, they huddled together in their tent, armed with nothing but a hunting knife and a weak flashlight, honestly believing they wouldn't make it to morning. When dawn finally came, they cautiously unzipped the tent and crawled out to a scene of controlled chaos. Pressed deep into the mud surrounding their campsite were impossibly large footprints. But the most chilling sight was a series of thick pine branches, a good 8 feet off the ground, that had been snapped cleanly in 2. As one of them nervously scanned the dense tree line, his blood ran cold. For just a split second, his flashlight beam had caught it. 2 red eyes, reflecting from a hulking, hairy silhouette that stood perfectly still, just watching, before it simply melted back into the shadows. They'd survived, but they left a piece of their sanity behind in those woods, absolutely convinced they had come face to face with the creature of legend, Bigfoot. Next, we head east to the desolate, misty pine barrens of New Jersey, home to a legend born from a curse more than 250 years ago. The story goes that the 13th child of a woman named Mother Leeds was born a devil, a hideous creature that flew up the chimney and has haunted the pines ever since. Most people write it off as just a spooky campfire story, but for a group of 4 friends driving home late one night, that story became all too real. Their car sputtered and died on a lonely stretch of road miles from anywhere. As the driver desperately tried the ignition, a piercing shriek ripped through the night, a sound that was somehow part horse, part human scream. That's when they saw it. Taking shape in the darkness was something straight out of a nightmare. A creature with a horse-like head, leathery bat-like wings, and eyes that glowed with a nasty, hellish light. It took flight, circling their car before landing on the roof with a deafening crash. They heard deep, metallic gouges being torn into the metal as it clawed and thrashed above them. The screaming was constant, a sound of pure, unholy rage that seemed to come from every direction at once. Just as the engine roared back to life, the creature launched itself into the sky, its terrifying scream echoing as it vanished over the trees. When they finally stumbled into a 24-hour diner, pale and shaking, an old-timer at the counter just nodded grimly. He told them they were lucky. The Jersey Devil, he said, is immortal, and it often leaves behind mutilated livestock as a warning to anyone who trespasses in its domain. Our next encounter takes us to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and to a creature whose appearance is said to be a warning of impending disaster. In November 1966, 2 young couples were driving near the abandoned TNT munitions plant, a creepy area of concrete domes and overgrown woods. As they rounded a corner, their headlights fell on something that froze them solid. Standing there was a figure the size of a man, but it wasn't a man. It was gray and muscular with enormous wings folded against its back. And then it slowly turned its head. Its eyes were huge, red, and seemed to glow. Panic took over. The driver slammed on the gas, tires screeching as they tore out of there. But the creature simply unfolded its massive 10-foot wings and launched into the air, easily keeping pace with their car, even as the speedometer hit 100 miles per hour. It followed them right to the edge of town, let out a strange, high-pitched squeak, and then veered off into the night sky. For the next 13 months, sightings of the Mothman became a local phenomenon. Then, on December 15, 1967, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge, the town's main artery across the Ohio River, collapsed during rush hour, plunging 46 people to their deaths in the icy water. In the aftermath of the collapse, the intense wave of sightings that had gripped the town came to an end. To this day, many in Point Pleasant whispered that the Mothman wasn't a monster but a harbinger, a terrifying messenger of the doom that was about to unfold. From one West Virginia legend to another, we go back in time to September 12, 1952. On this evening, in the small town of Flatwoods, a group of boys watched a fiery object streak across the sky and seemingly crash on a nearby farm. Thinking it was a downed airplane, they ran to get help, and soon a small posse, including a local mom and a National Guardsman, headed into the woods to investigate. As they got close to the top of the hill, they were hit by a thick, sickeningly sweet mist that made their eyes and throats burn. A strange, pulsing red light was glowing from just over the crest. The guardsman, Eugene Lemon, pointed his flashlight toward the light. The beam landed on a creature that was over 10 feet tall. It had a dark, metallic-looking green body, and its head was shaped like an ace of spades. From that head, two huge, non-human eyes glowed with a greenish-orange light. It didn't walk. It glided silently right at them, making a mechanical, hissing sound. The group screamed and ran for their lives, not stopping until they were back in the safety of town. Investigators later reported finding scorch marks and a lingering metallic smell at the site. But the creature was gone. Was it an alien, a cryptid, or something else? The Flatwoods monster was never seen again, leaving behind nothing but a legacy of fear and one of the strangest unsolved cases on the books. All right, if these stories are making you think twice about turning off the lights, do us a favor and hit that like button. And if you've ever had a run-in with something you couldn't explain, we want to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments below. We honestly read every single one. Now back to the darkness. Imagine you're driving home from a late shift at work. Your tire blows out on a dark, deserted road that runs right alongside a murky, foreboding swamp. This is the exact situation a 17-year-old kid found himself in back in the summer of 1988 in Lee County, South Carolina. As he was struggling with the lug nuts, he heard a noise from the woods. He glanced up and saw it running straight for him. A 7-foot-tall, two-legged creature covered in green, scaly skin. Its eyes glowed red in the dark, and its hands had only 3 long, black-clawed fingers. He scrambled back into the car, but the thing was impossibly fast. It leaped onto the roof, its weight rocking the entire vehicle. He could hear it clawing and tearing at the metal right above his head. He floored it, swerving wildly to try and shake it off. After what felt like an eternity, the creature was gone. When he finally got home, he saw the deep scratches and gouges it had left behind on his car's roof and side mirror. In the weeks that followed, more reports flooded the local police. Other cars mauled, strange 3-toed footprints, and more sightings of the terrifying lizard man of Scape or Swamp. The sightings have continued on and off to this day, a chilling reminder that some swamps hold secrets far older and scarier than alligators. Ohio seems to be a hotbed for some truly bizarre cryptids, and this next one is no exception. This story takes us to Loveland, Ohio, back in March of 1972. A police officer was driving near the Little Miami River late one icy night when something scurried across the road in front of him. He slowed down, assuming it was a dog. But when his headlights hit it, he saw a creature about 4 feet tall, with leathery skin and a distinctly frog-like face. It was crouched low to the ground, but as the officer watched, it stood up on its hind legs, stared at him for a second, and then leaped over the guardrail, vanishing towards the river. Just a few weeks later, another officer had a nearly identical encounter. He saw what he thought was roadkill in the middle of the road and got out of his cruiser to move it. As he got closer, the thing stood up. It was the same 4-foot-tall, frog-like man. An even earlier report from 1955 claims a businessman saw 3 of these creatures huddled together, and that one of them held up a wand that shot sparks into the air before they all disappeared. Though one of the officers from the 72 sightings later tried to walk back his story, claiming he just shot a large, tailless iguana, the legend of the Loveland frogman persists. The image of a humanoid frog waving some kind of sparkling wand on the side of an Ohio road is one that's just too bizarre to forget. We're staying in Ohio for our next story, this time from the small town of Minerva in August of 1978. It all started when the Caton family's grandchildren came running into the house screaming their heads off that there was a monster in the gravel pit out back. The adults went to investigate and saw it for themselves, a 7-foot-tall, 300-pound creature covered from head to toe in dark, matted hair. But the sightings didn't stop there. One evening, the family heard strange noises coming from their old chicken coop. Peering out into the darkness, they saw 2 pairs of glowing yellow eyes. A family friend shined a car's headlights in that direction, revealing 2 large, cougar-like cats. But then, the massive, hairy creature stepped out from the shadows, placing itself in front of the cats as if it were protecting them. The encounters kept escalating until the creature actually started throwing rocks at their house, forcing the terrified family to pack up and flee their own home. Police investigated but found nothing, though they were convinced the family was telling the truth. The Minerva monster, sometimes seen with its strange feline bodyguards, remains one of the most intense and terrifying Bigfoot-type sagas in American history. Our final story is one of pure, raw terror, and once again, it comes from the woods of Ohio. This creature is known only by the one feature that haunts the nightmares of those who've seen it: orange eyes. In the 1960s, a group of teenagers was parked at a local lover's lane near Mill Lake when their car was violently attacked. Slamming against the vehicle was an impossibly large creature, estimated to be over 11 feet tall and weighing close to 1,000 pounds. It was a Bigfoot-like beast, but its most terrifying feature was its massive, blazing orange eyes, which seemed to glow with their own internal fire. It pounded on the car, leaving huge dents in the doors and roof while the terrified teens screamed inside. It snapped thick branches off trees like they were twigs as it circled them, a display of unbelievable power and rage. Finally, as the driver managed to get the car started and speed away, the hulking giant simply vanished back into the darkness. Local legend claims Orange Eyes once lived in a series of tunnels beneath a cemetery before construction drove it out, forcing it to claim the woods around Mill Lake as its new home. Though sightings have become rare, the legend endures, a stark warning that some things in the deep, dark woods are better left alone. From hairy giants in the Pacific Northwest to reptilian stalkers in southern swamps, these stories all share a common, terrifying thread. They're glimpses into a world that exists just beyond the edges of our own, a world filled with things that defy science and reason. The witnesses in these stories were just ordinary people thrown into extraordinary circumstances, left with chilling memories and one big, unsettling question. Do these creatures still lurk in the shadows, just waiting for the next unlucky person to cross their path? That's for you to decide. If you want more chilling stories that blur the line between folklore and fact, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You don't want to miss our next trip into the unknown. Thanks for watching.